Live from the 607, it's the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour, where we're talking everything going on in the world of sports. Join in the conversation on social media with the hashtag ODPH, because here we go.
Instead of looking deep inside, every word I have to say, keep it simple.
Welcome to an all-new edition of the ODPH podcast, better known as the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour. What is happening, everybody? Thank you so much for joining us this week. My name is Ken M. Joining me in studio, as always, you know him. He's the co-host. His name is Padawan J.
Oh, let me talk to you.
Yeah, and we have a lot to talk about in the land of sports, and we definitely want to keep that conversation going after the show. So, Pad, where does everybody head to?
ODPHpodcast.com.
Right on. You head on over there. You sign up on all the social media links. Everything's updated. So in case Twitter or X goes down, trust us, we can keep that conversation rolling on every single major social media platform. Also, check out the TeePublic Store link. Check out the Patreon link. Shout out to all our amazing patrons. The blog section of the show, where there's always reviews coming left and right. Might have a special entertainment one coming too. Teasing, so stay tuned for that. ...
Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Yep. The classified section, where you can find friends of the show, such as 3FN Podcast, Dragon Master Games, Nerd Initiative, where the monster shows of Turn a Page and Wrestling Night Live are right there on the front page too. We got the embedded players in there, so if you're not sure how to get there, we make it so easy for you to hit subscribe, interact with us on the shows, because, like I said, we got a lot going on there. Also, the directory. How many providers are we on?
926,000.
Sounds about right to me. I don't question that. The music section, where you can hear such great musicians as Tom Jolu, Brian Wolf, and the Howlers. Shout out the Robots, and many, many more. Basically, if there's anything and everything that is the ODPH, you can find it at odphpodcast.com. And always remember on social media to use the hashtag ODPHpod. Kicking off the sports edition of the show, well, it's football season.
Yes, it is.
So you know how we kick anything off during that time period. And if you're new to the show, hey, thank you very much for checking us out. Drop that 5-star review for us. It definitely helps the algorithm. We recap the week that was in the NFL. So, Pad, kick us off.
I'm going to start with my lock, because I think, as everyone in this group that does locks and leaps with us will agree, the leaps were absolutely terrible this week.
Yes, they were.
So I'm going to start with one of my locks, and that was the San Francisco Giants to beat San Francisco 49ers, to defeat the New York Giants, which they did by the final score of 30-12. Brock Purdy, 25 of 37 for 310 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Daniel Jones, 22 of 32 for 137 yards passing, no touchdowns, just 1 interception. Matt Breida led New York in rushing with 4 carries, 17 yards, 1 touchdown. Christian McCaffrey led San Francisco in rushing, because of course he did. 18 carries, 85 yards, just 1 touchdown. Deebo Samuel led San Francisco in receiving, because if this is news to you, you must be living under a rock. 6 catches, 129 yards, 1 touchdown. Also of note, George Kittle, 7 catches, 90 yards, no touchdowns. And on the Giants side of things, Darius Slayton led them in receiving with 3 catches, 32 yards, no touchdowns.
San Francisco Giants would have had a better chance.
Yeah, they probably would.
Just putting it out there, because the New York Football Giants, how do we put it nicely? I don't think we can.
No, you can't. You suck.
Literally, they are not a good team.
No.
And no matter how anybody wants to try spinning it, they knew that they were going to be having problems with Saquon Barkley in the lineup at running back. Matt Breida is serviceable, but he's not the guy. I'm sorry.
No, he ain't.
Just putting it out there. Daniel Jones, also not the guy either.
That offensive line, not those guys.
No. Listen,
I get Giants fans were probably feeling good and happy about the win against Arizona last week, which, hey, you should always feel good when your team wins. But that win came with a caveat that, this is the Arizona Cardinals. You should not have beaten the Arizona Cardinals by that slim of a margin.
No, absolutely not. And the fact that it was that close, I mean, it's telling. And I'm sorry that anybody that thinks the hangover in the Brian Daboll era is carrying through. This is going to be a shock to some people.
Now, before any Giants fans hit us up, hashtag ODPHpod, and go, well, the Cardinals beat the Cowboys this week. Yeah, because the Cowboys got caught looking past them. Let's be real. Let's early preview that one. Cowboys got caught looking. Sorry, Cowboys fans, but it happens every once in a while. But the Giants, as bad as you are, the Cardinals are, on paper, are worse.
Oh, absolutely.
And the fact that the Cardinals had you dead to rights, through the first 2.5 quarters, whatever it was last week. And then hey, kudos, you pulled off the comeback and you pulled it out. It's always good to see some players do that. Shouldn't have needed to happen, though.
No, absolutely not. I mean, the thing about the Giants is everybody is buying into the hype that happened last season. And last season, they got off to a hot start.
It was an anomaly.
Sure.
It's the young guy from minor league baseball getting called up to the majors, and in his first, half dozen at-bats, hits a couple home runs, and everyone goes, oh my God, this is incredible. We haven't seen a performance like this since Roger Maris in the, whatever year. Like, you see that every now and again, but then what happens? You get the game tape, you get the film, the pitchers and the coaching staff watch it, and all of a sudden that batter gets figured out. Mm-hmm. That's what's happened with this team.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's the one problem that the Giants are going to have. They were flying under the radar last season, and they were the Cinderella story. Mm-hmm. Cinderella's ball ends at midnight. Mm-hmm. And for the Giants, it ended last season because teams were looking for you this year.
Especially because what you need to do in every offseason is improve, because there's going to be a shit ton of footage of your team from last year. And if you come in with the same staff and personnel and haven't really upgraded anything, it's going to be real easy to figure out what you do because, hey, not much has changed.
No, absolutely not. And the Giants still have the same problems they did last year. Just winning, it was a bigger Band-Aid to cover up the wound. Mm-hmm. This year, the Band-Aid is not big. No. The offensive line is awful. Their defense is getting gassed out late.
Yeah.
It's not looking pretty. I mean, their big offensive signing this season, Darren Waller, 3 catches, 20 yards.
That ain't nothing to sneeze at.
Right. And Daniel Jones is doing the best he can, but let's face it. He was not the guy. He has flashes of brilliance.
Sure.
But they're a blink and you miss them.
Broken clock is right twice a day. I mean, you brought up the defense being gassed. You look at time of possession for the San Francisco 49ers, 39 minutes and 10 seconds. New York Giants, 20 minutes and 50 seconds.
Exactly.
Almost double.
Well, that's the difference between the great teams and the ones that are struggling. The 49ers understand how to win games. Mm-hmm. They are arguably the best team in all of football, not just the NFC. And when you have Brock Purdy back at the helm, managing the game, but still putting up stats. Mm-hmm. Christian McCaffrey has been running fantastic.
Yeah, he has.
He's been healthy.
It's like California weather, baby.
It's just a different scenery, but it's also a better offensive line they had in Carolina.
Yeah.
So let's put that in perspective as well.
Yeah.
And you want to see how a line makes you look great? Brock Purdy was Mr. Irrelevant, and now he's one of the best quarterbacks in the league.
He's won his 11 out of his first 12 games in his career. And the only loss he has in his career thus far is in the NFC title game.
Where he got hurt.
Yeah.
So his arm muscle completely tore off. If
I could be wrong. Yeah, something like that. And I could be wrong on that number, but I know he's only lost one game.
Right. But that's the whole thing about him.
Yeah.
Is he has weapons around him that are showing up. I mean, Debo putting up a hell of a stat line, 6 catches, 129 and 1.
Yeah.
Kittle, 7, 90 and 0, but still.
Yeah.
But when you're having that kind of punch on the ground and in the air, and your defense is playing lights out as well, too, pressuring the quarterback constantly.
Yeah.
And Daniel Jones had no time to do anything. And like I say, when he's hit 6 times, that's a big deal. I mean, sure, the Giants also got some hits in there as well, but you take a look at that line, and especially when the second and fourth quarters, that's when the 49ers took over.
Mm-hmm. Well, and if there's any kudos we got to give the Giants, it's, hey, you didn't turn the ball over a whole lot. Only the one turnover, which was the interception from Daniel Jones, which with as good as that San Francisco defense is, the fact that you didn't fumble the ball at all is at least something.
No, they have some things that they can take solace in, but at the end of the day, I think that they know that they are not going to be a team that is striking fear in a lot of others.
No.
I think that if Saquon was healthy, maybe there would have been a slightly closer game.
Slightly, but it wouldn't have been a huge difference maker.
Right. So I think the Giants need to do more retooling. I don't know if this is going to be the season for it.
Right.
But I know from these 3 games, and even the Cardinals game, like you touched upon, they should have absolutely ran away with that game. They didn't. Mm-hmm. So now looking forward, I mean, the Giants still got a lot of work to do.
Yeah, they do. Looking at their schedule, they have the next couple of weeks. This upcoming week, they're on Monday Night Football playing the Seattle Seahawks. That is at home. Then week 5, they are on the road playing the Miami Dolphins. Good luck, guys.
Yeah.
And then the week after that, they are on the road playing the Buffalo Bills. Again, good luck.
Mm-hmm.
And then following that, week 7, they are at home playing the Washington Commanders.
Bum, 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 bum.
And then for the San Francisco 49ers this upcoming Sunday, they are at home playing the Arizona Cardinals. Following week, they stay at home and play the Dallas Cowboys. Then they are on the road playing the Cleveland Browns in week 6. Then week 7, they're on Monday Night Football on the road playing the Minnesota Vikings.
So, like we say, the 49ers are heading in the right direction. A couple tough games in that stretch.
Yeah.
But in comparison to the Giants, I'm not saying the season is lost, but the season is dimming hope right now.
It's hanging on by a thread.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of the Minnesota Vikings and teams that we cannot figure the fuck out, my leap was the Minnesota Vikings to defeat the Los Angeles Chargers because, let's face it, I looked at the performance the Los Angeles Chargers had last week and went, yeah, even if they put up a stellar performance, they can't pull out the win. They did, however, with the Los Angeles Chargers beating the Minnesota Vikings 28-24. Justin Herbert, 40 of 47 for 405 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. Kirk Cousins, 32 of 50 for 367 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, just 1 interception. Alexander Matson, 20 for Minnesota, led it in rushing, 20 carries, 93 yards, no touchdowns. Joshua Kelly led the Chargers in rushing with 11 carries, 12 yards, no touchdowns. Keenan Allen led the Chargers in receiving with 18 catches, 215 yards receiving, no touchdowns. Also got to mention Mike Williams, 7 catches, 121 yards receiving, 1 touchdown. And then on the flip side for Minnesota, Justin Jefferson led them in receiving with 7 catches, 149 yards passing, 1 touchdown. Also of note, TJ Hawkinson, 8 catches, 78 yards, no touchdowns. Also should note, Mike Williams done for the year with a torn ACL.
Yeah, tough break for him. Where do you want to start with? The Chargers or the Vikings? Because I can go either way about this one.
Start with the Chargers.
Okay, so the Chargers, the most inconsistent team in football, snuck one out.
Mm-hmm.
Let's be on it. A late-minute dramatics pulled something out where they shouldn't have pulled out. This team should be 3-0.
Mm-hmm.
Easy. But yet again, inconsistent play from both sides of the ball are preventing games like this from being a rout each and every week. Herbert looked great. 405 yards, 3 touchdowns.
So that's a phenomenal stat line.
Yeah.
Had a rating of 123.8.
But what's more scary to me is the rushing stat line. Combined team total, 15 carries, 30 yards.
Yeah, average of 2 yards a carry.
So you are putting a lot of pressure on Herbert to make something happen if you have no running game. Albeit, though, one of the most stellar wide receiver cores in the league.
Yeah.
And Keenan Allen, like I say, is always solid. He won't find the end zone a lot, but he's solid for yards. So for fantasy players, he's always great. But this is going to be a problem moving forward, too, because with Mike Williams out the year, somebody's got to step up. Somebody's really got to make up that stat line.
Right.
But for the Chargers, like I say, they should have routed Minnesota. They didn't. Kirk Cousins. I'm going to say this, and maybe Vikings fans are going to feel a certain way about it. Hashtag ODPH pod. Trade him to the Jets already.
Right.
The experiment's done. You're 0-3. The season, I will say, after next week, if you are winless, it's a wash.
I mean, this was supposed to be, at least in theory, you know, the Viking season, because gone is Aaron Rodgers. You know, in theory, on paper, you look at the success Minnesota's had the last couple of years and figure, oh, you know what? Now without, you know, the walking giant that is Aaron Rodgers not in that division, you got at least got a shot. I mean, you look at what happened in the AFC East after Tom Brady left. You gave other teams a shot. You know, so you would think that, hey, this is their opportunity to seize it, but they're kind of blowing it.
No, they absolutely are. I mean, I'm sorry. This is the time that Minnesota should have stepped out of the gate and done something. It's almost the tale of two teams, in all honesty. Kirk Cousins is very inconsistent. He has to get really mad to show up.
Yeah.
That's why I say put him in the New York media. He'll be lighting it up. He might be the MVP of the season.
Yeah.
I'm not lying about it.
Yeah.
But you take a look at that running back core. Madison is doing well. You can't complain about him. Justin Jefferson and Hawkinson are doing great for the offensive side. But the fact that you are struggling as bad as you are, especially late, that's a problem. And the Chargers were throwing the ball all over the place on you.
Yeah.
Like I said, the fact that you gave it 400 yards in the air plus, that's a problem.
Right.
And especially if this was a game that was very, very winnable and it unfortunately went sideways late, you really have to assess now what's the future of this team. And Kirk Cousins, is he really the guy for you?
Right.
Or do you just say, what value can we get now? Trade him to a team like the Jets.
Right.
and see what value you can get back. Like, I mean, I would be considering this, especially depending on what happens next week, but I'm at least feeling some calls right now.
I mean, they could field it and they could see what's happening, but I don't know if the Jets have anything left to give, considering everything they gave up for Aaron Rodgers. So, I mean, we'll see. I mean, the biggest thing with Minnesota, and I'm just looking like, obviously nothing much has changed with the receiving core. The only thing I can kind of put it on is the running game, because I'm looking at this year with their high rusher. So it's been Mattinson all 3 weeks. Week 1, he had 34 yards. Week 2, 28 yards. And then this week, he had the 93 yards. And then you look at last season, where obviously Dalvin Cook was there, but you look at the first couple weeks, Green Bay, 90 yards. Week 2 was Cousins with 20. Week 3 was Cook with 96, 75, 94, 77, 111. So he's always floating around that 50 to 100 range, which is fairly decent for a running back. I mean, you'd like to see the 100 yards, but it's still pretty decent. So I mean, you look at it, that just their running game for Minnesota just isn't there, and that's the other side with the Chargers as well, because Austin Eckler is out. He suffered I was looking it up, because he's got, if you at home might be wondering, well, why is Austin Eckler not going to carry? He's injured. He's got an ankle injury, and there's no timetable for his return. So the Chargers need somebody to step the fuck up on that running core, and clearly they're not doing it.
No, Kelly had a bad game.
So the stat lines are great, and sure, with that kind of offense, you're going to pull off some wins, but you're going to become very one-dimensional very quickly, and it's going to become very easy for opposing defenses to scheme against you and figure out what to do, because, hey, you don't really have a run game, so we're just going to drop coverage and have you beat us over the top.
Mm-hmm. It's an interesting situation they have, but the Chargers, like I say, should be playing a lot better. And with Minnesota, I mean, there really isn't a lot of light at the end of the tunnel.
There's really not.
No, I mean, this is going to be, I hate saying it's a make or break game, but they have Carolina this week.
Mm-hmm.
If they don't pull this off this week, it's done. I'd start selling the, whatever value you can get.
Right.
Be a sell. Don't be a buy.
Right. And the other thing you keep an eye out on for the Los Angeles Chargers is their secondary having issues, because won't get into the whole thing, but their cornerback they signed from the Patriots either this season, last season, whatever it was, J.C. Jackson, going through some legal issues right now. So that could be an issue for that team for what was supposed to be one of their starting secondary guys going forward.
Yeah.
As you mentioned, though, with the schedules, looking at the Los Angeles Chargers this upcoming week, they are at home playing the Las Vegas Raiders. Then they're on a bye week in week 5, and they come back in week 6 on Monday Night Football at home against the Dallas Cowboys. Then week 7 doesn't get any easier for them. They go on the road to play Kansas City. And then for the Minnesota Vikings, as you alluded to, they are on the road playing the Carolina Panthers this upcoming Sunday. Then they go back home the following week to play the Kansas City Chiefs. Week 6, they are on the road playing the Chicago Bears. And then week 7, there is Monday Night Football at home against the San Francisco 49ers.
That could be an ugly game.
Yeah, for a whole host of reasons.
Yeah. Well, like I say, both teams have a lot of work to do in the future, so we'll kind of have to see how that plays out.
Mm-hmm.
One team, though, that we thought was going to have to do a lot of work, but surprisingly snuck one out in one of the most controversial fashions, the Indianapolis Colts.
Yeah.
Let's talk about it, Pat.
Yeah, so the Colts won by the final score of 22-19 in overtime. Gardner Minshew, 27 of 44, 227 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions. Lamar Jackson, 22 of 31, 202 yards passing, no touchdowns or interceptions. Lamar Jackson led Baltimore in rushing because, of course, he did. 14 carries, 101 yards, 2 touchdowns. And then on the Indianapolis side, Zach Moss led them in rushing with 30 carries. Holy shit.
Yeah.
122 yards rushing, no touchdowns. Michael Pittman Jr. led Indianapolis in receiving with 9 catches, 77 yards, no touchdowns. And then also Zay Flowers led Baltimore in receiving with 8 catches, 48 yards, no touchdowns. Should also note, got to give a shout out to Matt Gay, the kicker for Indianapolis, 5 for 5 on the day for kicking field goals. I think, and if I remember correctly, I have to look this up. Every single one of those was like 50 plus. It was, or something absurd.
It's something crazy.
Something absurd. It was like some NFL record he set on Sunday. And hey, it's a kicking record Justin Tucker doesn't own. Kind of surprising.
It is wild, but to really break this team down, the Colts, like we said, the most boring team in football.
Also, hey, shout out Minshew Mania for pulling a Dan Orlovsky and running out the back of the end zone.
Yeah, but
Like, I'm sure Orlovsky feels vindicated on that one.
I would say so because I believe Orlovsky at least threw a touchdown or a completion out of that. Minshew, like I say, is stepping in for Richardson, who's out on injury with a concussion. So this was going to be an interesting task for him, and surprisingly, the Colts hung in there and really scrapped with the Ravens, who I legit thought was going to run away with this one.
Right.
The Colts, like we said, very boring team. You know they're going to run a lot. They're not going to beat you in the air by any which way, shape, or form. Much like the Baltimore Ravens to a degree, except Zay Flowers, I was surprised that the stat line was that low, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
8 catches, 48 yards. I thought he'd have a bigger day.
Right.
But he didn't. Lamar Jackson put a lot on his shoulders, which, listen, if you have a quarterback of his caliber, and especially with the running skills he does, why not?
Well, clearly the Ravens, I think we're looking at the Indianapolis' run defense and going, yeah, we're not scared of that, because total between all the guys who got at least an attempt or a carry on rushing, 37 carries for Baltimore with 31 pass attempts.
Yeah.
So clearly the Ravens were not scared of Indianapolis' run defense.
Not at all. So to see how this all kind of factored out, it was really surprising it went to overtime.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, a very questionable call or lack thereof
Yeah.
at the end. So,
Yeah.
But you never, like much like the UFC, you don't want to leave it in the hands of the judges. And
this is true.
And Baltimore is a way better team. They should have been imposing their will. Yeah, I'm going full UFC talk here. They should have been imposing their will on the Colts, and they didn't, and they let them get back in this. And like I say, when you have a kicker that's as hot as the Colts was,
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you can't give them that opportunity.
Well, like we said, 5 for 5, all from 50 plus, and oh, by the way, he nailed an extra point, so the dude was 6 for 6 in kicking on the day.
Yeah, so
Crazy.
great stat line for them, and know, a very solid win in a division that a lot of people said Jacksonville was going to run away with.
There's going to be a lot of people picking up Matt Gay in fantasy this week.
Oh, absolutely.
Looking at their schedules for the Indianapolis Colts this upcoming Sunday, they are at home against the Los Angeles Rams. Then they are at home the following week against the Tennessee Titans. They go on the road the following week to play the Jacksonville Jaguars. That is in week 6. And then week 7, they are back at home against the Cleveland Browns. Looking at the Baltimore Ravens, this upcoming Sunday, they are on the road playing the Cleveland Browns. Then the following week, they're on the road playing the Pittsburgh Steelers. The week after that, they are technically at home against the Tennessee Titans. However, that is one of the games over in London, so asterisk that home game. And then the following week, no rest for the weary, because they come back home stateside and they play the Detroit Lions on week 7.
That'll be a really fun game.
Oh, yeah.
I'm excited for that one. Well, it'll be interesting to see how Baltimore goes back from this one. I mean, Cleveland is no joke.
No.
Even without Nick Chubb in the lineup, they're still going to scrap with them, and then they got Pittsburgh right after, too.
Pittsburgh's looking real good.
Yeah, I mean, that's the whole thing. Like, that whole AFC North is a tough matchup, so
it is.
It'll be no easy task for them.
Yeah.
Speaking of that AFC North, let's talk about it.
God damn these waters.
Say what you mean, Pat, because you know what? Somehow, some way, those Cincinnati Bengals showed up and snuck one on the Los Angeles Rams.
Goddamn Mixon and McPherson sunk me in a fantasy game this week, because I put up like 122 some odd points in fantasy this week, and I needed Mixon and McPherson to not do anything super stellar, and I still ended up losing by like 1 or 2 points, because Mixon and McPherson put up stellar fucking games.
Let's talk about it.
So the Cincinnati Bengals beat the Los Angeles Rams on one of the 2 Monday Night Football games by the final score of 19-16. Joe Burrow, 26 of 49 for 259 yards passing, no touchdowns, just 1 interception. Matthew Stafford, 18 of 33 for 269 yards passing, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. Kyron Williams led Los Angeles in rushing with 10 carries, 38 yards, no touchdowns. Joe Mixon led Cincinnati in rushing with 19 carries, 65 yards, and 1 touchdown. Jamar Chase led Cincinnati in receiving with 12 catches, 141 yards, no touchdowns. And then Puka Nacua led Los Angeles in receiving with 5 catches, 72 yards, no touchdowns. And since I brought it up, Evan McPherson went 4 for 5 on field goal and 1 for 1 on extra points. God damn it.
I was very shocked at this one. I thought the Rams were going to run away with this.
I did too. Especially with Cincinnati kind of trying to figure things out. They were 0-2 coming into this. The Rams were 1-1. And just with the way the Rams had played last week, I figured, I could see the Rams winning this.
Well, the biggest question mark was Joe Burrow. And was he going to play or not? I know they signed A.J. McPherson, or McCarron, I should say, rather,
Yeah.
off the XFL,
Yeah.
which I completely forgot he was there.
Yeah.
to be on the depth chart, and we were really not sure until game day what was going to happen with Burrow. He did play, obviously, and put up a decent stat line with all things considered.
Yeah, I mean, 259 is not a bad yardage. Could have used a couple touchdowns.
No, 50 attempts, though, that does worry me a little bit.
Yeah.
That was the only thing that really scared me, especially with him having a bad leg. You're asking a lot. Now, granted, if you have the best wide receiver core in the league, and he does, it does take some worry away, but this is your franchise guy. If he goes down, you don't have a great plan B. So you really need to be careful about this. And I thought that he did very, very well under the circumstance. But with Aaron Donald and that Rams defense, they still are pressuring. They still were making some hits.
Yeah.
And that's one thing that I was a little worried about with them, to be honest. But at the end of the day, like I said, Cincinnati snuck one away and really held on. And especially, too, they were in a very bad position late in the game, too.
Yeah.
I know Nakua caught that ball super late, right down to the goal line. And it was a situation like I thought they should have done a little more interesting play callings instead of what they did. But you can't take anything away from the Bengals. They are for real. But like I say, I want to see what happens with Burrow moving forward.
Right.
Because if he's got to throw 50 times a game, that's
not ideal.
That worries me.
Not ideal. And I mean, you look at the Rams, it's just they're going to be relying on their defense a lot this season because, I mean, listen, the running game's nothing special. 13 carries total. You know, I mentioned Kyron Williams, but also he had one carry, 22 yards, no touchdowns. Stafford had 1 carry, 7 yards, no touchdowns. And Van Jefferson had 1 carry, 4 yards, no touchdowns. So total, it was 13 carries for 71 yards and no touchdowns. So clearly the run game ain't fearing anybody.
Right.
You know, and this was just a case of Stafford couldn't get anything going on the passing game. You know, 18 for 33, 1 touchdown. You know, so you had Puka had 5 catches, Higbee had 5 catches, Tutu Atwell had 4, Van Jefferson had 1, Kyron Williams had 2, and Ben Skowronek, Skowronek had 1. Like, this receiving core is not scaring me at all.
No, I mean, other than Nakua, there isn't any threat there until Cooper Kupp comes back.
Right.
Then that's going to be a very nasty 1-2.
Yeah.
But teams are going to start game playing for Puka, and that's going to be something that Stafford and company are going to have to adjust to. Right now, yeah, he did put up 5 catches for 72, but remember, the long one was in the fourth quarter.
Right.
I believe that was the one that was 37 yards.
Something like that, yeah.
So they were shutting him down, but he needs another weapon somewhere there to take some pressure off him. The Rams really need to focus on that because much like we were saying about the Chargers, people are knowing that Stafford's going to be throwing. They don't have a great run game.
Yeah.
And that's going to be something that's going to be giving them problems moving forward.
Yep. Looking at the schedules for the Los Angeles Rams this upcoming Sunday, they're on the road playing the Indianapolis Colts. Then they are at home against the Philadelphia Eagles. Week 6, they're at home against the Arizona Cardinals. And then week 7, they are at home against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Then for the Cincinnati Bengals, this upcoming Sunday, they're on the road playing the Tennessee Titans. Then they're on the road again, week 5, against the Arizona Cardinals. Back at home, week 6, again against the Seattle Seahawks. And then they have a bye week in week 7.
A lot of interesting games moving forward for both teams, and let's see how it goes with Cincinnati because I think the Rams are going to have a tougher task to get to the playoffs. All right, Pat, that all said, let's take a quick trip around the league.
Yeah, so you had the Cleveland Browns defeat the Tennessee Titans by the final score of 27-3.
Well, good bounce-back game for Cleveland.
Good Lord.
You know, we said earlier with Nick Chubb out of the lineup, we weren't sure what to expect, and sure enough, that defense of Cleveland really stepped up, put a lot of pressure on, and you know, Deshaun Watson didn't look the worst.
No, 27-33, 289 and 2.
Yeah, so
not bad.
It's not a bad stat line, and they really had a good bounce back game. So I like this win for him.
Did the offensive line for Tennessee even exist? 5 sacks?
Yeah.
Or did they do like the Adam Sandler longest yard movie and they just kind of like stand up and let him through?
You have to wonder. I mean, Garrett was having his way with him.
Oh,
that was the scariest thing about
Jesus.
that game. If you watched it, it was like he was just dominating them.
You had the Detroit Lions beat the Atlanta Falcons by the final score of 20-6.
Who is Atlanta?
What is Atlanta?
Atlanta took a big L.
Yeah, they did.
And Jared Goff looked great. Like, with all things considered, with the injuries that Detroit's defense has suffered, they really stepped up, and they're very exciting to watch on the offensive side. So the defense, really held in check the Falcons, which a lot of people have been surprised with this season. Take nothing away from those early games, but I think this was a real test for him, and especially seeing Bijan Robinson shut down to 33 yards.
Ooh.
Once they did that,
Yeah.
I thought that Atlanta might be in trouble, and sure enough, they were. So
Yeah.
this will be interesting to watch to see how they bounce back moving forward.
Yeah.
And I did hear Kyle Pitts might, rumors has it, Dallas bound? Hearing some rumors only. So Cowboys fans, let me know what you feel about
That
that.
could be interesting. You had the Green Bay Packers defeat the New Orleans Saints by the final score of 18-7.
I guess all they needed was love.
Ha.
Because Jordan Love, look, has been a surprise. Am I saying we're talking the next Aaron Rodgers? No.
Right.
But he's looked good in the moments he's needed to step up with. I mean, sure, he didn't go undefeated here thus far, but he's really showed me a lot of composure.
Right.
And for the team that really needs something to bounce back with, and I think that Green Bay might be one that's flying under the radars for a lot of people,
A little bit.
this is a good game. I will say, though, Derek Carr was injured in this one.
Right. Went down with a sprained AC joint. He is listed as like day to day.
Right. So that does play a factor in this, but take nothing away. It was a good win for Green Bay.
Yeah. Next up, we got to mention that the Houston Texans beat the Jacksonville Jaguars by the final score of 37-17.
Well, this was a game.
Yeah, it was a game. Hey, one team had to win, one team had to lose. They did.
Yeah, we'll say.
Stroud had a good game, 280-2.
Yeah, I mean, I will say this. All kidding aside, Houston took it to a division rival.
Yeah.
Surprisingly, Jacksonville really did not have any intensity for this one. I mean, you think about it, at halftime it was 17-0.
Yeah.
And I don't know if Jacksonville just took them. That's the only thing I could think of. Albeit, though, we do have one stat line.
Yeah.
Christian Kirk,
Okay.
4 catches, 54 yards, 1 touchdown.
It's okay.
It's okay.
It's okay. You had the Seattle Seahawks beat the Carolina Panthers by a final score of 37-27.
Well, this game was a lot more high scoring than I thought it should have been,
You're not wrong.
to say the least.
You're not wrong.
But Seattle, solid win. And the Panthers, I mean, what can you say, really?
Work on everything.
Yeah, even though Andy Dalton,
Yeah.
we have to give him his credit.
Yeah.
I do have a special place in my heart for him.
Throwing for almost 60 times, though.
Yeah.
Yikes.
That was the problem right there.
Yikes.
That was the big problem.
34 of 58. Yikes. And then, like I said, Carolina, work on everything because you gave up off 146 yards rushing and 296 yards receiving.
Yeah.
Oof.
There's a lot of involved.
Jesus.
A lot.
You had the Kansas City Chiefs beat the Chicago Bears by a final score of 41-10 in one of the most watched games of the week. If I read the ratings correctly, it was like 23.4 million people watched this damn game.
Well, let's be honest.
It was the Swifties.
It was the Swifties.
The Swifties. Travis Kelce merchandise sales, according to Fanatics, up 400%.
Yeah. Big win for Kansas City. Big win for Travis Kelce merchandise and social media following.
Shout out to the matchmaker, Andy Reid.
Yes, as he took credit for. What can you say? Let's talk about the game. The Bears are bad.
Bears are very bad.
Bears are very, very bad. Kansas City, we knew it was going to be tough at home, and obviously they made a statement win with this.
Yeah, they did.
And then obviously social media ran crazy with arguably the biggest pop star on the planet in the house.
Yeah.
And she, was being a real fan too. I liked seeing that. Yeah, it wasn't anything manufactured. I mean, dropping an F-bomb in the owner's box.
Yes, well, it was Kelsey's suite.
Yes.
It was Travis's suite, and she was sitting next to his mom.
Yeah. So
only thing of concern I'd say for the Kansas City Chiefs, if there's one thing we are concern on, at one point Mahomes' ankle was rolled on.
yes,
That is, I don't know if it was the same one he had injured last
I
season.
believe so.
So that's something to look out for.
Yeah, but big win for the Chiefs. Bears,
Sorry.
man,
I mean, listen, I agree with what the Chicago Tribune gave the letter grade for everything on the team. F.
yeah.
You had the Arizona Cardinals defeat the Dallas Cowboys by a final score of 28-16.
Ugh.
Well, they got, like I said earlier, they got caught looking.
They got caught looking. They took this team way too lightly. Dak throwing a very, very bad interception in the end zone late.
Which is wild they got caught looking because they're playing the Patriots next week.
Mm-hmm. Oh, no, I mean, let's face it. The Cardinals on paper are the worst team in football.
They're awful.
We talked about this at length. But you still have to go out there and impose your will.
Uh-huh.
Dallas did not. Dallas literally took the foot off the gas.
Yeah, they did.
So you got what you got.
And then you had the Pittsburgh Steelers beat the Las Vegas Raiders by the final score of 23-18.
Brutal game.
Oof.
Brutal one.
I was like, when are we starting the countdown timer for McDaniels to leave the Raiders?
I would say very, very soon. Week 10 should be interesting.
I don't wish it on anybody, and I certainly don't want anyone to lose their job. But when you look at the job he has done with the Raiders thus far, a lot to be desired.
Very much so. I think the experiment is not working. Davante Adams is very vocal about that.
Davante Adams has got to be losing his mind.
Yeah, there's a lot of real concern with this team. It's not pretty.
No.
I think the McDaniels experiment is over. I don't know exactly who you get in as a new head coach, but I think that the Raiders really need to reset everything. And I fully believe that McDaniels is gone at the end of the season unless they do some dramatic running of the table. But when you're struggling this bad on the offensive and defensive side of the ball, especially to a Steeler team that, let's be honest, is not the Steeler team of old,
right?
This is a problem. This is very, very much concerning.
I was like, what's Jeff Saturday doing these days? No, I'm kidding. No, if you want, I'm looking at their coaching staff. If you want to go the interim side of things, their offensive coordinator is Mike Lombardi, who's got 13 years of experience in the NFL, and their defensive coordinator is Patrick Graham, who's got 15 years of experience. So might be good for an interim thing if you end up going that way before you can find somebody. But hey, don't forget, Jeff Saturday is available.
To be honest with you, I'm just trying to even think who could come in there and really fix that right now. And there really isn't like
Lovie Smith, maybe.
I mean, to be honest with you, it's going to be a very
Jeff Fisher.
Yeah, maybe Jeff Fisher. I mean, to be honest with you, it's
Fisher's available, far as I know.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think, because somebody is going to have to come in there and really rebuild.
Right.
And it won't be Rex Ryan.
No, God, no.
No.
Not sexy Rexy.
No.
And then the other of the Monday night games we got to mention, and yes, I'm deliberately skipping one, we're leaving it for last, was the Philadelphia Eagles defeating the Tampa Bay Buccaneers 25-11.
Philly doing Philly things.
Yeah, they're looking real good. They got their own Kelsey Swift connection.
Yes, they do. Then we got to get to our team's games.
Yes.
So we will start with yours, Pat?
Yeah, sure. So my New England Patriots defeated the New York Jets by the final score of 15-10. Hey, we didn't give up a double-digit lead in the first fucking half.
Right.
Went into the halftime, it was 10-3. You look at the stats, though. Mac Jones, 15 of 29 for 201 yards passing, 1 touchdown, no interceptions. Zach Wilson, 18 of 36 for 157 yards passing, no touchdowns or interceptions. Ezekiel Elliott led the Patriots in rushing with 16 carries, 80 yards, no touchdowns. Dalvin Cook led the Jets in rushing with 8 carries, 18 yards, no touchdowns. Pharaoh Brown led the Patriots in receiving with 2 catches, 71 yards, 1 touchdown. And then Garrett Wilson led the Jets in receiving with 5 catches, 48 yards, and no touchdowns.
Jets are in trouble. Big trouble.
Yeah, they are in so much trouble that even Joe Namath is ready to be done with Zach Wilson. So got a couple things for you here. It was such a bad start for the Jets that I saw a screen grab from the broadcast, and the first 5 possessions of the Jets, 3 plays, -5 yards, and then punt. The second one went 6 plays, 5 yards, and punt. Then they went 3 plays, 6 yards, punt. Then they went 3 plays, -12 yards, punt. And then they went 3 plays, 7 yards, punt. They did not make it past the 50-yard line and into Patriots territory until almost halftime.
Yeah.
So the entire first half, they had 39 yards of total offense from the Jets. And then you got to give some credit, I think, to Patriots rookie Christian Gonzalez, because you look at his stats the first 3 games, okay, against A.J. Brown in his first career NFL game. He gave up 7 catches for 71 yards. He got 1 sack, and he had 7 tackles. And against Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle last week, he gave up 3 catches, 32 yards. He had 1 interception and 6 tackles. And then against Garrett Wilson this week, he gave up 2 catches, 5 yards, and had 3 tackles. The big stat, though, and it might be time for the Jets to move on. So Zach Wilson so far in 3 seasons, 24 starts, 17 touchdowns, 22 interceptions. He has a completion percentage of 55.1% and a quarterback rating of 69.6%. Quarterback rating of 69.6. Comparable to Jamarcus Russell,
Eee.
25 starts in 3 seasons, 18 touchdowns, 23 interceptions, a completion percentage of 52.1%, and a quarterback rating of 65.2. Yikes.
Jets got to move him.
Jets, it's so bad that even Joe Namath is ready to be done with him because as we record, he appeared on the Michael Kay show on ESPN New York yesterday and basically ripped the Jets a new one. They asked him if he took anything positive out of it, and he said, quote, "I didn't take anything positive out of it. It was awful." I'm reading from an article on NBCSports.com. It goes on to say, Namath was particularly irked by Wilson's decision to sit down for a sack. Quote, "You sit down? You sit down on a play? You go right down? What happened? I thought you're trying to win and make plays. You quit on a play? What is going on? It's disgusting," close quote. Then he went on to say, quote, "These guys aren't picking the right players. They aren't doing a good job of coaching. It's evident. I mean, you've got to look and see. If you have an eye for football, at all you see things are haywire. It's too crazy. They need to fix it, and that's getting rid of a lot of people and bringing new ones in. They need to make major changes from top to bottom," close quote.
I fully agree. I think at this stage, your defense is now getting very frustrated because they're getting gassed out. Mm-hmm. And your offense, listen, there's no nice way to put it. You need to go out. You need to get somebody in there ASAP.
Uh-huh.
And if you have to go call Minnesota, what can we do to get Kirk Cousins?
Right.
Just put it out there. Like, what do you want that we can do right now?
Mm-hmm.
See what they say.
Right.
Otherwise, unfortunately, the season is going to be forgotten, and it's going to be a mess. And then, I mean, I expect big changes for the Jets moving forward.
Oh, yeah.
Just because you see the disconnect and it's building. It's not getting better.
I mean, you can't, and I realize their head coach, Salah, there is saying, like, oh, there's no disconnect. We're all connected. Like, no, I don't think anybody's buying that line of you know what.
Well, he doesn't want to cause a problem in the locker room. I understand that aspect, but
sure.
at the same time, like, we all know what's going on. We see it there when your players are on social media, making noise and not for the right reasons. Mm-hmm. So you really have to have somebody in that locker room. We mentioned this before. Have a players only meeting and get everything back on track. Otherwise, you got to start making some moves and just start putting calls out to teams and saying, "Hey, what do you want?"
Mm-hmm. If they have anything available to trade.
Yeah, that's the only thing you're going to need to do.
Yeah, but on the flip side, Patriots finally got a win. Good win, step in the right direction, I would say. Mm-hmm. Good performance from Mac, all things considered. We'll see where it goes next week because, like we mentioned earlier, they're playing Dallas next week, so that won't be entirely easy, but you never know.
No, it'll be a good game.
Yeah.
And like I say, we'll really see what the Patriots are up to.
Yeah.
For me, the Bills, 37-3 over the Commanders. Bum, 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 bum. The story of this game was not really Josh Allen. This was the defense. 9 sacks, 4 interceptions. Terrell Bernard. I know a lot of people might not know him outside the Buffalo area, but he is the one that is replacing Traymon Edmonds. Stepped up and had some really good games here lately. So very excited to see what he's doing moving forward with the team. And we really have to kind of say, okay, we know what's in front of us for next week. Mm-hmm. We're not going to lie about this. This is Miami.
Oh, boy.
Miami is coming off one of the most historic wins in NFL history.
We'll get to that in a minute.
But for the Bills, if the defense can play as well as they did during this game, and I'm not saying, hear me out, I'm not saying they're going to get 9-4.
Sure.
But if they can slow down the Miami offense, they have a very, very realistic chance of winning this game. Mm-hmm. If they don't and they can't stop the running attack, it's going to be a long day in Buffalo. Mm-hmm. So the Bills have their work cut out for them.
Yeah.
And it's not an overcomable game here, but they really need to play their best football they've done to date.
They do, and they really need to drag the clock out, stay in bounds, work the play clock down to its last second, really take away every possible second the Dolphins offense can have, because if you give them any ounce of a second, they'll torch you.
And the big thing is James Cook needs to get 100 yards. He got 98 in this one, so it's close. But he needs to have a big game.
Yeah.
And then let's talk about, to wrap this week up, Miami 70, Denver 20.
Jesus Christ, the worst ass whooping the state of Colorado had seen in 24 hours. So yeah, like Ken mentioned, Dolphins won 70-20. They were, I believe, 2 points shy of the all-time record for points scored in a game, but they elected to not go for it. You had Tua Tagovailoa, 23 of 36, 309 yards passing, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions, a quarterback rating of 155.8, so just a few points shy of perfect. Russell Wilson, 23 of 38 for 306 yards passing, 1 touchdown, no interceptions. Javonte Williams led Denver in rushing, 11 carries, 42 yards, no touchdowns. Devon Achane led Miami in rushing with 18 carries, 203 yards rushing, 2 touchdowns. Raheem Mostert also had 13 carries for 82 yards and 3 touchdowns. So while Tua had 4 touchdowns, the running backs for Miami had the other 5. For Denver, Cortland Sutton led in receiving with 8 catches, 91 yards, 1 touchdown. Tyreek Hill, 9 catches, 157 yards, 1 touchdown. So yeah, this was like a fucking video game.
Yeah, this is a video game. I mean, that's the easiest way to describe it. Miami had their way with Denver. If they wanted to run the ball, they did. If they wanted to pass, they did. This was just a straight-up domination.
This was an ass whooping.
Yeah, there's no easy way to put it. In my opinion, I think that the Denver Broncos are completely mailing it in on Sean Payton. I don't know why.
The team's spirit is broken because I forget the player's name, but there was that gentleman on
One of their linemen
who, after the game, you could tell that his spirit was broken, that he's like, listen, I've been here for 7 years and all I've done is lose. And
right.
And he's tired of it.
Well, you have to think about it. You brought in Sean Payton, legendary coach.
Right.
You know, with a pedigree that really says we're going to turn everything around. You have Russell Wilson, who's supposed to be comparable at this stage, but Pete Carroll's looking like a genius for moving him. So you would think that this team would show some kind of light. And yet there was nothing. Absolutely nothing here.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest takeaway is Denver. I'm sorry, it looked like they mailed it in my opinion.
I mean, I have to wonder if Tua wasn't a little motivated. He's going to say he wasn't if you ask him this, but I can't help but wonder if he was behind the scenes a little motivated because of what Sean Payton had said last season or previously about Tua, that like he'd very soon be benched and replaced for Tom Brady.
Oh, I'm sure.
And then he went in there and hung a 70 piece on him.
I'm sure that there was a little bit of motivation in there. And I think it was to send a message to the rest of the league that Miami is for real. And I think that now you have Mostert and Achane really going in and establishing a run game. And that's a scary 1-2 punch to complement Tyreek Hill. And when Waddle gets back healthy.
Yeah.
The biggest question is Tua's quarterback play. And so far this season, he's looked great. I'll give the devil his due. He's looked great. He looks motivated. He looks healthy. I like seeing this as, you know, somebody that was really hoping he's healthy after last season. So it's going to be a big challenge for them this week in Buffalo. This is, I mean, honestly, I think if the powers that be could have flexed this game, this would be on Sunday night, to be honest with you.
You would think, although it's a little, I think it's too early.
It is too early. Yeah. But I think that this season, this is going to be a game that everybody's going to be talking about. And Miami, I don't know how they're going to do it against Buffalo. It's going to be a challenge. Like I say, I'm not saying I'm taking my fandom out of this. This is going to be a very tough game for both teams.
Right.
And I don't know how it's going to go.
It's going to be one of the more interesting matchups they've had over their storied rivalry. And on the flip side, playing next week are the 2 worst teams you had in the NFL this week, the Denver Broncos and the Chicago Bears. 1 o'clock in Chicago. If you are willingly watching this game on television, why do you hate yourself?
Yeah.
Why, just why?
This is going to be bad. I heard rumors that you could buy tickets for as cheap as $2 right now.
I wouldn't.
Allegedly.
Wouldn't doubt it.
Oh, man. A lot of headlines coming out this week's NFL actions. Definitely hit us up on that hashtag ODPH pod. What is your takeaways from week 3 of the NFL? Let's talk about it. But we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Do you like comic books?
What about movies and TV shows?
Well, we may be the show for you.
We're Hops Geek News, a weekly podcast that discusses comics, movies, and TV shows while featuring a beer of the week.
Every week, we chat about what we messed up on the week before, and then we dive into what we're reading and watching, as well as some news.
We then wrap it up with a geek-themed topic of the week.
You can find us anywhere you listen to podcasts by searching Hops Geek News.
Cheers.
Coming back for another segment on this edition of the ODPH podcast, and wow, it's been a week in the land of WWE.
Holy shit, yeah.
We have a lot to recap, and some stories are breaking this morning as we're about ready to plan out the show. So let's get into the week that was in World Wrestling Entertainment.
Yeah, so obviously the big news that went down this past week as we record was the sudden releases that took place a couple of days ago, Thursday to be specifically. And I'm going to read through the list here. This is from the list as I have it from the Squared Circle subreddit over at reddit.com/r/Squared Circle. So if there's anybody I missed on here, apologies. But the list is as follows. Ulyssa Leone, Dana Brooke, Quincy Elliott, Quincy Miller, Mace, Mansoor, Shanky, Bryson Montana, Dabba-Kato, and then those were all from NXT. So the following here are from the main roster: Dolph Ziggler, Shelton Benjamin, Top Dollar, Riddick Moss, Elias, Aaliyah, Rick Boogs, Emma, and Mustafa Ali.
Well, we had to think when Endeavor came in, they were going to make some swift changes. Not super shocked by this, albeit though I hear there was a little miscommunication, if you will, that some people thought they weren't going to be doing any layoffs. But let's face it, this is a company taking over, they're restructuring everything, and they're really taking a look at the books. And some of these releases, not really that super shocking. There's a lot of them that I was like, I can't remember the last time I saw them on TV.
Right, and I know some people are bringing that up like, oh, this is horrible, people losing their jobs. And it is. It sucks when anyone loses their job, and it's terrible for them. But, I mean, I pulled some of the names. I pulled up the names here I could via ProFightDB.com. So you had Ulyssa Leone, whose last television match was on the 1st of August, then was on Great American Bash at the end of July. So a little bit since they've been on there. You had Dana Brooke, who's been on NXT the last couple of weeks. Last was on TV September 12th, 2023. But the thing I think with her is just, listen, she's been on the roster for like 10 years or something now. Like, you haven't seen her get better. She hasn't gotten worse. It's been kind of stacked well. And they've made it very clear in the past. Obviously, this was the old regime, but I think even under the new regime, not much has changed. Like, unless they're seeing the progression they want to see from you, you might be shown the door.
Well, I mean, it's a sad thing, like I say, because, I think that Dana was one that got called up to the main roster too soon.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think that really hampered her progression in the company, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So, and this one, like I said, she was coming back down NXT, and she was really, trying to make strides, but it wasn't clicking.
Yeah. Quincy Elliott was last seen on television for NXT Level Up. That was in July 18th of this year, so it's been a little bit. And I'm not counting house shows here.
Right.
This is just televised stuff.
Yeah, let's talk TV.
And then for Massey, hasn't been on television since an episode of Monday Night Raw on May 15th, 2023. The same can be said for his tag team partner there, Mansoor, May 15th, 2023. Shanky, I should say, has not been seen on television since the July 22nd, 2022 episode of Friday Night SmackDown. I get he was on Superstar Spectacle, and he's listed there of having faced Gunther for the IC title, but that wasn't televised.
Right.
Last TV appearance was in July. Bryson Montana has not been on television since a June 6th, 2023 episode of NXT Level Up. Then you have Dabba-Kato, who was on TV as late as September 5th for NXT, where he faced Tyler Bate. Dolph Ziggler is obviously the surprising one, although he hasn't been on TV since May 29th, 2023. What this is, what the reason is, I don't know. I kind of lean towards what I know you and Rich were talking about on 607 TWS this week is, listen, they're looking to clear the books. They're looking to create a little cap room, if you will, and Dolph was reportedly making a lot of money.
Well, the thing is, Dolph had been there for
a while,
quite some time.
He's got matches listed here on ProFightDB.com as far back as 2004.
Well, you think about it, his time in the Spirit Squad, and then when he was repackaged as Dolph Ziggler, and he's had a great career with WWE.
Yeah.
He's always been somebody that's gone out there and really put on a hell of a match every time he's been in the ring. But at this stage in the game, I think that he wasn't being used on TV. The character probably, could have used a refresh, maybe. But
I think so, yeah. But it's needed a refresh for a couple of years because, I mean, honestly, the last memorable thing I can remember him doing was where he disappeared from a month from the product for a month, like didn't appear on anything. I don't even know if he was doing house shows. And then he appeared at the number 30 spot of the Royal Rumble a couple of years ago, like 2018, 2019, whatever it was. And then everyone's like, oh my God. And then he won, I forget if it was the US or IC title, but he won one of the mid-card titles and then gave it up a month later.
Well, that's the thing. He's always been somebody that they could rely on to go into a program with somebody
Right.
that they wanted to elevate.
Right. And he's good for making new call-ups look good and selling for the people who don't know them. But, I think it's just a case of like, listen, times are changing.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And especially he's been doing other pursuits. We know his comedy career is something that's been something as of late that's really kind of started picking up steam.
Yeah.
So I'm not super shocked by it. I know it just kind of seemed like he's always was going to be somebody that was there forever. And just, it goes back to Endeavor just really looking at the books and saying, what have you done for us lately?
Yeah. Then you have Shelton Benjamin, who was on a main event taping for WWE. That was on September 11th, 2023. This one surprised me almost as much as the Dolph Ziggler one, just because this was a guy much in the same vein of like Dolph Ziggler. He was a reliable veteran. You could rely on him if something happened. And let's just say somebody got injured. No, like, oh my God, we need an 11th hour plug. And hey, Shelton, we need you out there. You could always count on him. So that one was very surprising to me.
Absolutely surprising to me too, and I will say same thing I said in 607 TWS this week. AEW would be absolutely foolish not to sign him immediately.
He's not going to make it past, because all of these contracts do have the 90-day no-compete clauses. So with it happening on the 21st of September, that will theoretically take them to the end of December, which I can't imagine anyone's going to sign, the week of Christmas.
No, I think New Year's Eve.
New
New Year's Day, rather. I'm sorry.
New Year's Day, I'm expecting him to sign very quickly.
Absolutely.
Top Dollar was last seen on television on August 11th on an episode of SmackDown. He'd done some house shows, was on a Saturday night main event live show, was on a couple, and then Sunday Stunner, but hadn't been wrestled a match on television since August 11th. I mean, listen, I kind of lean with Rich on this one from 607 TWS. It's kind of not going to go anywhere when Michael Cole starts making fun of you weekly.
Yeah. Very embarrassing match that he never got over when he was brought back on the main roster with Hit Row. And unfortunately, it wasn't going to work in his favor moving forward. So I could see him going around the indies or doing something completely different.
Yeah, I could see it. Then you had Madcap Moss, who's been on main event tapings from the last couple of weeks, but hasn't been seen on an episode of Monday Night Raw since May 15th, 2023.
Okay. I'm going to say something here, and I'm putting this out in the world here.
Okay.
I fully expect to see Madcap Moss in an indie faction with Matt Cardona before it's all said and done.
Didn't Cardona throw out some sort of like open invitation for like anybody who wants to join him?
And you know what? Yeah. The more I was thinking about it, I'm like, that's perfect for him.
He'll probably do it. He'll probably join Cardona. Could I see him going Impact or like NWA?
Oh, sure.
Or New Japan or ROH or AEW? I absolutely could. But I lean more heavily percentage-wise towards him going, the Cody Rhodes or the Matt Cardona route and just being that indie darling.
Oh, absolutely. I think that in his case, I could legitimately see him going to Impact, and he'd be great there. I think he's got a lot of talent. I just think for character-wise, no matter what they've tried doing with him, it just hasn't worked. I mean, I know that he was once in that tag team with Mandy Rose's fiance. I'm blanking on his name.
Oh, yeah.
But and like I say, I thought that had potential, but it just didn't pan out. And then when he got called up to the main roster, you could definitely tell he was a Vince character, because the Madcap thing was a complete Vince thing.
Yeah.
So after Vince left and Triple H came back in, it's tough to say. Like, they did try repackaging him a little bit, but it's a situation in that circumstance. Like, I think the time away is going to help him, as weird as that sounds. But I could fully see him going with Cardona and building his name up through there until he finds a new gimmick to go with.
Yeah. Elias has not been seen on television or on house shows since an episode of Monday Night Raw in a Battle Royale on May 15th, 2023. This one didn't entirely surprise me just because he disappeared off the face of the earth after that episode of Raw. And I never heard anything about like an injury or some sort of like personal life issue or just any sort of like rumors or hearsay. He just disappeared. and never heard it. So this one didn't entirely surprise me. I got to say, though, totally surprised that he confirmed he was Ezekiel or Zeke.
I was so waiting for Kevin Owens to say something about that on TV.
I was waiting the same thing.
Yeah, just like I told you, and like he wouldn't have to say what it is, but everybody would know. Like I was waiting for that moment. Yeah, his character. I mean, unfortunately, it's tough.
Yeah,
because I don't want to say,
It was great when he was doing the weekly segments where like they were in a city and he was insulting that city. Like obviously the most memorable one for me is when he and Kevin Owens insulted the Seattle Supersonics in Seattle and got booed out of the Western time zone. That was hysterical. If you haven't seen that, look it up. That was when it was great. When it was he's going into these cities and insulting their sports teams and whatever else and really getting a rise out of the fans. But other than that, it was just like, what are we doing?
Well, that's the problem that you run into with a character like that when it's so based on like the same old thing that you have to come up with ways to freshen it up. And I just think that it wasn't doing that. And the whole Ezekiel thing, I don't blame on him.
No,
I don't. But there's only like a certain shelf life for that before it gets expired and nobody wants it.
Yeah,
that's the problem he had there. But I think that him on the indies, I think could help. I mean, I think if he comes back, maybe not go to the guitar right away.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't.
That's the only thing I would kind of be leery of if I'm him.
I'd stay away.
Yeah, try finding something different.
Jeff Jarrett might get you for gimmick infringement.
Yep.
Then you have Leah, who has not been seen on television or in a house show since she lost the Women's Tag Team Championship with Raquel Rodriguez on September 12th, 2022 on Monday Night Raw.
If I'm not mistaken, I believe she was injured.
Okay, that could be.
But even when she came up to the main roster...
It was one of the more puzzling call-ups.
Well, I think that, yeah, she's been putting in a lot of work in NXT, so I mean, I give full credit for that.
Right.
But I just think it's like when you make that transition to the main roster, you have more eyes watching your character, and I think you have to do something to really stand out and make yourself known. Mm-hmm. In my opinion, I don't think she did. But it's like I say, it's not necessarily on her per se. I mean, you're given a character, you got to do something with it. You got to get something to make people remember you.
Right.
And I just feel that like for her gimmick when she came up, it just didn't connect that way.
No, it didn't for me. That's for sure. And then you have Rick Boogs, who last appeared actually at SummerSlam back on August 5th, 2023. And then prior to that was last seen on actual television on an episode of Friday Night SmackDown. And that wasn't even one on television. That was a dark match. Hold on. His last television episode was on a taping of Friday Night SmackDown that was taped on May 19th, 2023, where he lost to LA Knight. So if you don't count SummerSlam, his last actual broadcast television match was on May 19th.
Well, he's also much in the same vein as Elias.
Right.
That you can only do that gimmick so much. It's going to work for so long, and then you have to do something different. And I think whatever he was trying to be, the Muscle Mountain or whatever it was, like you can tell by the tone of my voice, I just don't even remember it.
I mean, it worked for me when he was with Shinsuke Nakamura and he was introing Shinsuke and,
and
playing guitar, and even when he was doing a little bit of Freddie Mercury style, like getting the crowd going. That for me was great. And I even told my girlfriend, who's a massive Queen fan, there's a guy in WWE who's doing the Freddie Mercury bit, and she's like, "Oh, really?" And I showed, and she loved it. But like, why they didn't, and obviously we know where Shinsuke is now, but like you kind of wonder why they didn't decide to pair Shinsuke and him back up together when they reunited, because they were split off in separate directions once the draft came around, but it just never, once he came back, it just never re-clicked.
I know he's made some comments about this, but I fully think that that when Vince was away from creative, like that's a Vince character as well too. And I just think
a T.
Yeah. So I think there's only so much you can do with him there.
Yeah.
I think I could definitely see him winding up in Impact.
Yeah.
And I think that's a great landing spot for him, and just have him
Impact or NWA.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of those two, brilliant. I fully agree with you there too. I think he's got some room there to do something different, and I would not doubt seeing him back in the main roster at some point.
Yeah, maybe.
But it's gonna be a while.
And then you have Emma, aka Tanel Dashwood, who has not been seen on television since July 10th of 2023.
Yeah, this one not super shocking.
No.
For some reason, something's not clicking with the gimmick. I know we talked about this on 607 TWS. Mm-hmm. She's great in the ring, but there's just something about the character, no matter what she's tried doing, that just hasn't worked.
Right.
So I think if wrestling is still her passion, I think that she should make use of her time away from WWE.
Yeah.
Reinvent.
Yeah.
Try some things out. See if you can get some buzz going.
Well, and just come up with something new, because I know you and Rich brought it up on 607 TWS this week that like the first time or the last time she left WWE and was doing the indies and doing all this other stuff, it was essentially just the same character.
Yeah, it was the Emma.
It was the Emma, I'm gonna knock you out with, got the gloves on and got the shades and, the badass look, which, hey, there's nothing wrong with that. That's fine. But like, you kind of want to go out there. You want to reinvent yourself. You want to show them, hey, you made a mistake. I've made improvements, and you really didn't.
Yeah, I mean, she did kind of delve a little bit into something different when she was in Impact, and I was surprised she didn't carry that with her, like trying to be the social media influencer.
Right.
I think that might have worked a little better, but I think that this time around, I think that she'd be really smart to take advantage of that and come back. Because like I say, WWE does have a tendency to bring talent back if they think that there's something there, and there obviously is with her. It just depends on just connecting with the audience, because right now it just hasn't happened.
And lastly, the ones that were announced on this date, being September 21st, Mustafa Ali, who had been featured as recently as on NXT September 5th, 2023, and was actually in fact supposed to be on the No Mercy card taking place this Saturday in a matchup that was supposed to be up against Dominic Mysterio from the North American title, but obviously not in the cards now. This one, I think, is just a case of, listen, it's nothing against the guy. I got nothing against his work style and his ethic of being in the ring or whatever else. But just, I think it's a case of like, you made one too many waves, and the ripples came back to get you.
Oh, absolutely. I think when you make it public, you want out. You put it on social media, you want out.
Multiple times.
Eventually, somebody's going to respond to that.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, in this situation, it happened. But mark my words, he is going to be somebody that is going to be the biggest independent star on the planet.
Oh, yeah.
In the next 2 years,
yeah.
if not sooner. Because what I think he's going to do is tear it up on the indies and have dream matches with a Speedball Mike Bailey, a Leo Rush, a Blake Christian, Alex Zane. Like, the list goes on, and especially too, all those wrestlers for the most part were reaching out and saying, "When are you free?"
Yeah.
So he can generate some buzz. He's a fantastic talent in the ring. Character-wise, is always something's missing too.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he is going to be somebody that is going to sit on the indies and soak it up like a sponge.
Mm-hmm.
And when he comes back, and mark my words, I think he will come back at some point, or he's going to go to AEW, one of the two things. He's going to be a lot better if he takes the time off, hones a character, and really connects with the audience, because that's the only thing he's been lacking.
Yeah, no, I mean, I can see him going the AEW route, but I think he's going to more so go the indie route.
Give me him and Speedball Mike Bailey, like in the worst possible way.
That'd be good. And then the last one we got to mention didn't come with this batch. It came the next day on its own. And I'm reading from an article on Forbes.com where the article reads, quote, Matt Riddle has been released by WWE as his whirlwind career, both in and out of a WWE ring, has come to a merciful end. Just wanted to inform everyone that I'm no longer with WWE, Riddle wrote in a tweet. Thank you for the memories and opportunities. Also, thank you to all the fans for the support and love you give me every time I go out to the ring. See you all soon, close quote.
Well,
this was about the least surprising release of the entire week.
Yeah, I think the writing's been on the wall for a while.
If you're not familiar, he's had some issues and some things happen behind the scenes. Look it up on your own time.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have the time and don't want to get into it here.
There's a lengthy track record if you want to go down that rabbit hole.
Yes, there is. Read it on your own time.
Yeah, if you want to go down that rabbit hole, you'll see some stuff.
Yeah.
This one definitely didn't surprise, especially with the latest incident that happened at the JFK airport.
Yeah.
Endeavor is a billion-dollar company.
They don't like to play games.
And they don't want bad press. And when you're somebody that unfortunately has had some situations like he had, it was a matter of time. And I think that somebody really took this time to kind of do their own, investigation, if you will, and saying, is this worth having this individual on our roster?
Right.
And Endeavor said no.
Yeah.
So I would like to see him, though, take this time and really get himself in a good place.
Yeah.
And then wherever he decides to come back, whether it's an Impact, whether it's work the indies.
Yeah, I think it's going to be work the indies just because of if his track record of what's happened is enough for WWE to let him go. when he was featured semi-prominently, I would say. When they put you up with Randy Orton, one of their best of all time, and one of their upper echelon, in a tag team program for a number of months, they obviously think very highly of you. But when it just becomes enough with the nonsense off screen that WWE wants to cut you loose, that might put a little bit of sour taste for anybody who's willing to give it a try.
Yeah.
The other one we got to talk about took place that same day. It's not a release, although, however, it is a bit of interesting news. And that is Friday Night SmackDown is moving to the USA Network in 2024.
Yeah.
So reading from an article on usatoday.com, it says, quote, WWE will be shaking up its weekly programming network, as Friday Night SmackDown will move back to USA Network beginning October 2024 in a new partnership between TKO Group Holdings and NBC Universal, the companies announced Thursday. The new deal is a 5-year agreement, and when it begins, WWE will produce 4 primetime specials per year that will air on NBC. The first time the company will air primetime shows on the network. SmackDown has been on Fox since October 2019, but the weekly show was on USA Network before that, from 2016 to 2019. USA Network currently airs Monday Night Raw and NXT, and all pay-per-view events like WrestleMania and Survivor Series air on NBC Universal's Peacock. USA Network also aired Raw when it debuted in 1993 and did up until September 2000 before it returned in October 2005. Close quote.
Big move for NBC. Big move for WWE TKO.
Yeah.
Arguably the biggest TV show that WWE is doing on airwaves right now is going to find a new home.
Yeah.
This will be a big domino effect after, because it has been announced that Raw and NXT will be leaving.
Yeah.
If I'm hearing correctly.
Well, it's sounding like they could. It hasn't been announced like where they're going and they're being shopped, but it sounds like they could be leaving USA Network, and they also Raw could be leaving Monday nights.
Well, if Raw leaves Monday nights, I think this is interesting, because USA has always had WWE programming on Monday night for decades.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a bona fide win for them.
Right.
So
it's the only reason a lot of people watch USA Network.
Right. So I would be surprised if they moved nights away. And I'm not saying that it's out of the realm of thought to think Monday Night SmackDown.
Right. Yeah, you could.
Like I say, you could see that happen.
Yeah.
I think what will be interesting to see is where the other shows end up.
Right.
But I think the big enticing piece here was NBC agreed to do 4 shows, and they won't be a battle of the belts. They'll be like a really big event.
Right.
And like I say, because I always think with how Battle of the Belts winds up for AEW, in my opinion, I just don't think they get a big, sizzle for the steak, so to speak.
Right.
I think NBC is going to take full advantage of this. I think they're very happy, because especially with the WWE Network being on Peacock streaming, that's a big win for them. So I'm sure that that's going to be more enticing to re-up there.
Yeah.
But with Raw and NXT, that's going to be a big, big question mark. And I'm going to say I don't see NBC getting all of the programming, even though it would be an amazing deal to pull off.
It'd be good for them, but I don't see it either.
I am now leaning more and more that Raw is going to ABC/ESPN.
That'd be wild.
I'm really leaning that now.
That would, and if they keep it for a number of years, because I know the writer's strike is tentatively ending. It's not officially ended. It's on the path to ending. But they put Raw on any night of the week over on ABC. That instantly solves a night of programming for them 52 weeks a year, where they don't have now. Barring any sort of like blizzard or snowstorm like we saw a couple of years ago, where they had to do the one episode from the headquarters. But where they've had to, ABC has had to completely redo their schedule the last couple of weeks and add more Monday Night Football games because they don't have anything to show on television. This would take care of that issue tenfold for 52 weeks for however many years they decide to do this deal.
I'm going to make a ballsier statement. If Raw goes to ABC/ESPN, it'll be on Wednesday nights.
Ooh.
I'm going to put it out there right now. They will not mess with the NFL.
No.
And the only reason they're doing multiple games right now is because of the writer's strike.
Yeah, well, and the actors too.
Well, everything going on there, but that's kind of leading into this.
Yeah.
Trust me when I say this, if the NFL is back up and running, completely fine, all the, strikes are over.
Right.
Though they will go on Wednesday night.
I could see it.
Wednesday night hasn't been a powerhouse, in my opinion, for them in quite some time. I could be wrong about this, but don't doubt that they're not going to want to compete with Friday nights if they remain there for USA.
Yeah.
And Wednesday night is, I will say this, there'll be a WWE program on there at some point.
I could say it.
I don't doubt
Yeah.
that they move that to Wednesday.
Yeah, and as for the specials on NBC, I mean, it's hard to figure out what day it's going to be. We can rule a couple of them out.
Mm-hmm.
It's obviously not going to be Friday if they keep SmackDown. It's not going to be Friday if it's arguably not going to be whatever day SmackDown ends up being. So X that one out. It's not going to be Saturday because NBC's got the big deal with A, Notre Dame, and then B, the Big Ten. So they're showing a college football game for a good portion of the year on Saturdays on NBC there. It's not going to be Sunday because you're putting it up against the NFL for a good portion of the year. So going to be interesting to see when they do this.
It will be definitely interesting to see, but you're going to see, like I say, the biggest domino has fallen. So now it's going to be a matter of where Raw ends up. I fully, like I say, my gut, if I got to say locks and leaps right now, I think the lock is ABC/ESPN.
Okay.
The leap is NXT to Amazon Prime.
Yeah.
Just putting that out there. Let's see what happens.
Could say it. And then the last bit of WWE news that's broken during the week is it was officially announced, and I'm reading from the press release they sent to us, that WWE has signed Jade Cargill to a multi-year deal.
Ooh, boy.
So reading from the email they sent to the press release they sent to us, it says, quote, WWE, part of TKO Group Holdings, today announced it has signed Jade Cargill to a multi-year contract. Cargill, a standout performer who has earned accolades as an industry-renowned talent, will begin training today at the WWE Performance Center in Orlando, close quote. And they did not fail to notify us of that, taping a video and putting it on their social media of Jade walking into said Performance Center and then putting out a set of photos of Jade Cargill working out in the Performance Center.
Folks, if you're not buying in that Jade Cargill is a superstar,
Oh boy.
this is the first time in recent memory that we have gotten a press release, and I don't want to say broke the internet, but it broke wrestling Twitter.
Yeah, it did.
That this came out through ESPN. We got the press release from our friends over at the WWE. Shout out to them. This is really hyping a superstar is now in our company. And one thing we've been touting here and on 607 TWS, Jade gets it.
Yeah, she does.
She understands about making an entrance at a pay-per-view. She understands about getting the spotlight. She understands learning the craft and making sure that nobody is going to outsteal the spotlight from her. She gets this, and she is so young in this business, too, that now with WWE going to the Performance Center, there is no doubt in my mind WWE just landed arguably the biggest free agent of this year. And we'll have to see how it carries through next year. Obviously, there's a lot of contracts that are up in 2024 with another company.
Yeah.
Just putting it out there. But I think for right now, WWE landed arguably the biggest free agent name in the game.
Huge get for them. I also wouldn't be surprised if she completely bypasses NXT because I know a lot of people are expecting her to show up at No Mercy this Saturday, which we'll preview here in just a second. But with them announcing this, a lot of people are surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if she takes a little bit of time in the Performance Center, get acclimated or whatever else, and then just immediately shows up on the main roster.
Well, you got to think about this. I'm not doubting that, too. Like, if you want to do a percentage, I'm going to say 70% NXT, 30% WWE main roster right now, today.
Right.
The reason being is if WWE is still shopping NXT,
Right.
Jade is a star.
That's true.
And you want to load up whatever roster you can
Right.
of stars
Right.
to sell to networks and say, hey, we're going to put this talented roster on your service
Right.
each week. Show me the money.
Right.
Because
yeah.
and Jade, like if you haven't been following, homegrown talent from AEW.
Yep.
Is in the record books for one of the longest undefeated win streaks as she was TBS champion. And she generates buzz with everything she does. So now you bring her to a WWE NXT roster that has Becky Lynch there right now.
Yeah.
Dominic Mysterio. Can't believe I'm saying this, but I am.
Well, and don't forget, Kairi Sane is supposed to be on her way back.
Right. They're building that up with a great mix of WWE roster and rising talent that a network is going to want to make sure is on their programming. And Jade is like another all-star added to the dream team, so to speak.
Could you see her doing a Outsiders kind of show up in NXT? No, I'm not saying copy it verbatim, but have her show up and be like, hey, listen, I've heard you talking a lot about how great this NXT women's division is. I want to check it out for myself.
She could do something like that. Yeah, I don't think they'll allude to AEW by any which way, but
they're not going to name AEW. But I think I could see her showing up, going, "Hey, I've heard you talk a lot about how great this NXT women's division is. I think I need to check this out for myself."
Fully, could definitely see her doing that. In fact, I'll even say as we're going to go preview the NXT card this weekend, I see her coming out at the end of the Tiffany Stratton Becky Lynch match.
I could see
no
it.
doubt in my mind.
Could see it.
Lock that in.
So yeah, as you mentioned, taking place this Saturday from the Mechanics Bank Arena in Bakersfield, California, it is NXT No Mercy, taking place at, I believe, 8 o'clock on Peacock here in the States, and then for you lucky souls overseas, it is on the WWE Network. And going through the matches here, the ones that we know of, first matchup is a British Round Rules match for the NXT Heritage Cup. You've got Noam Dar defending the NXT Heritage Cup against either Butch or Joe Coffey. We're going to find out on this week's episode of NXT who is going to be the one facing Noam Dar.
Noam Dar has been great. The whole Round Rules, not really my wheelhouse.
No, nor mine. You know, I've seen it a couple times. It's honestly, and this might be blasphemous for some people here, it's honestly fucking confusing to me.
Yeah.
You know, is it thrilling? Is it exciting to a certain degree? Yeah, sure, but it's just not my cup of tea.
Right.
But I'm going to say it's going to be Butch. And I'm going to say Noam Dar retains.
Noam Dar is winning no matter what.
Yeah. Next up, you have a singles matchup for the NXT Championship where you have Carmelo Hayes taking on Ilya Dragunov.
Possible match of the year candidate.
Yeah.
Not going to lie, this is going to be amazing.
Yeah.
I don't see them moving the belt off Carmelo just yet.
No.
But if they did, I wouldn't be crazy shocked. Dragunov has been putting in great work. I'm still waiting for him to come up to the main roster.
Got an idea for that.
Oh, break it down.
So I think it's going to end up being Carmelo, and I think this is end up going to be like a trilogy of matches because I think we got to get this potential feud, and not the potential feud with Carmelo and Dragunov, but the potential feud I'm thinking about, and I didn't think of this until last night, to Mania. I think you're going to have Dragunov take on, at WrestleMania, Gunther.
Oh, I love it.
Because their matchups they've had prior, legendary stuff. You have Gunther continue his historic Intercontinental Championship reign to WrestleMania and have him get to however long they want to space this out to, a month before, a month and a half, whatever it is. Doesn't matter. Before WrestleMania, where you have him come out with Imperium and do the typical shtick. I've beaten everyone on SmackDown and Monday Night Raw. Even have him go down to NXT for a couple of matches.
Sure.
And just go, I've beaten everybody. There's nobody left. Nobody can defeat me. Nobody has defeated me. And that's when Dragunov's music hits and go, yeah, you haven't beaten me yet.
I'd be okay with that.
Set it up for Mania.
I'd be okay with it. I don't think they're going to do that just because it's too long of a play, but I love the idea.
Next up for the NXT No Mercy card is Braun Breaker taking on Baron Corbin.
Interesting feud.
Yeah?
We'll say that.
Yeah.
Not really jumping at me. I think Braun's going to win because I think Baron's in that.
Braun's going to win, and he's going to kick Baron's shit in.
Yeah, like I say, this is all to get Braun over for the main roster.
We're about to see how good Baron Corbin can sell.
Yeah, he's great, though.
Braun's going to beat the shit out of Baron.
Mm-hmm.
And then in your main event, in an Extreme Rules match, you have Becky Lynch defending the NXT Women's Championship against Tiffany Stratton.
This is going to be a fantastic match.
Yeah, it is.
I'm all in about this. I'm going to say Becky is retaining just to set up her and Jade.
I could see it. Well, the other thing, too, I think it's going to be Becky, too, but the other thing we have to know is because of what took place on Monday Night Raw, whoever wins this matchup will be facing Tegan Nox on Monday Night Raw next week.
You know what? I'd be cool with either or.
Yeah, I would too, but I think it's going to be Becky at the end of the day.
Yeah, I do too. I think it's Becky. I think there's just too much money to be had there with her and Jade. Mm-hmm. Like, even if you want to drag the feud out until Survivor Series,
right?
I'm completely fine with that. But yeah, I think that's how it's going to end. But it's going to be a great match. Tiffany Stratton's one of the most improved wrestlers, and just some of the stuff she's doing in the ring at this age, phenomenal.
Yeah.
So, like I say, her and Becky, like I say, is really nothing going on the main roster. She's great down in NXT.
Yeah.
It works.
Yeah.
So, bring it on.
Yeah.
Man, there's a lot that happened this week in the WWE, so we definitely want to recap that with you. So hit us up on that hashtag ODPH pod. Where do you want to begin? WWE Releases. Jade Cargill is now part of the roster. The TV deals are starting to fall into place, and WWE NXT No Mercy is this weekend. There's lots to discuss, so let's do that. And if you're looking for even more pro wrestling content, make sure to check out the latest edition of 607 TWS on your favorite podcast player, and drop that subscribe to Nerd Initiative YouTube, and make sure to jump in the chat on Wrestling Night Live every Wednesday night, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Nerd Initiative YouTube. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Hey guys, it's Alan Dunford here from Top Hat Studios, co-writer and co-creator of Pocus Hocus and Grandma Chainsaw, and you guys are listening to the ODPH podcast.
Gotta be down to the punch, 'cause they can't bring me down if I'm already under the ground.
Coming back for the final segment on this edition of the ODPH podcast. Pad, what you got?
Got a couple things to talk about. First of which, obviously, being the local minute, and we got to talk some Binghamton Rumble Ponies baseball because they're still playing, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes.
They had the divisional series in the playoffs against the Somerset Patriots, where they won both of those games. It was a best of 3 game series. They won 2 games, so they beat Somerset in the first game by the final score of 9-2. Then they beat them in the second game by the final score of 2-0, which moved them on to the championship series. This is for all the marbles. This is for the title. They haven't won since 2017, 2016?
Something like that.
Something like that. They're going for their 5th title in franchise history. They're taking on the Erie Seawolves. The series was supposed to have started on Sunday, September 24th. However, much like a lot of us up here in the Northeast, Ophelia decided to take a bucket and do the ice bucket challenge on us and dump a ton of water. Game was postponed because of rain. It was made up yesterday, so on the September 25th as we recorded. This is a best of 3 game series, as mentioned. So they lost the first game by the final score of 9-6. Their second game is on Tuesday, the 26th of September. This one is in Erie. This is a must win because if they lose this one, they go home. If they win, however, the game 3 will be on Wednesday, September 27th at 6:35 p.m. Eastern. Again, that's if they win tonight. If they lose tonight, however, it's all over. So
Right.
we will see, but we're pulling for a win tonight because, hey, we would love to see a title here in Binghamton for our Rumble Ponies.
Absolutely.
Also, question, do you think if they win a title, Steve Cohen will have a party at Citi Field because that's the only successful things the Mets have done this year?
Great question. Maybe.
Could be. And then we got to switch to some baseball news and some unfortunate baseball news because as was reported right as we were coming on the air, the Hall of Fame third baseman for the Baltimore Orioles, Brooks Robinson, has passed away at the age of 86. Reading from an article on ESPN.com, it says, quote, Hall of Fame third baseman Brooks Robinson has died at the age of 86. Quote, we are deeply saddened to share the news of the passing of Brooks Robinson, his family, and the Baltimore Orioles said in a joint statement. An integral part of our Orioles family since 1955, he will continue to leave a lasting impact on our club, our community, and the sport of baseball, close quote. Robinson made 18 All-Star appearances over a 23-year career spent exclusively in Baltimore and was a member of the franchise's 1966 and 1970 World Series championship teams. Signed in 1955 as a free agent, the Arkansas native originally was a second baseman before the Orioles moved him to third base, a position he excelled at over his career. Robinson won 16 consecutive Gold Gloves from 1960 to 1975 and started in 15 straight All-Star games at third base from 1960 to 1974. He was known as the human vacuum cleaner for his adept play at the hot corner. His 16 Gold Gloves are second only to pitcher Greg Maddox's 18 for most won by a player at one position. Robinson was also one of the best clutch hitters of his time, amassing 2,848 hits, 268 home runs, and 1,357 runs batted in. He was named American League Most Valuable Player in 1964 and after hitting .317 with 118 RBIs, both career highs. Robinson was at his best in the biggest games. He was named the MVP of the 1970 World Series by hitting .429 with 2 home runs against the Cincinnati Reds and arguably had the greatest defensive performance in World Series history. Cincinnati manager Sparky Anderson heaped praise on Robinson following his team's 4-1 series defeat. Quote, Brooks Robinson belongs in heaven, not here on the ground because of the way he plays third base, Anderson said. The praise for Robinson's World Series wizardry didn't end there, as former baseball commissioner Fay Vincent recalled the third baseman's play in 2006. Quote, nobody is going to show me plays at third base that will equal what Brooks Robinson did in that series, quote, close quote, Vincent said. Robinson is third in career defensive wins above replacement at 39.1 behind shortstops Ozzie Smith, 44.2, and Mark Bellinger, 39.4, who was Robinson's teammate for 13 years with the Orioles. Robinson retired after the 1977 series and was elected into the Hall of Fame on the first ballot in 1983. In 1999, he was named to the baseball's All-Century team, which honored the 25 best players of the 20th century. His number 5 is one of 6 jerseys retired by the Orioles franchise. Close quote.
Yeah, I mean, legend in the game. Stats that just truly define what a Hall of Famer is.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, obviously, from our team to his family, friends, and fans all over the world, our deepest condolences.
Legendary player.
Absolutely. To close out this edition of the ODPH, there was some UFC news and a couple fights made that definitely are making some noise.
Ooh.
So it has been announced for UFC 296, December 16th, that Paddy Pimblett,
Okay.
the lightweight that's been making a lot of noise, 20-3, is going to be taking on Tony Ferguson.
Oh, shit.
So this is going to be fireworks. This is going to either end one of two ways. Tony Ferguson is going to knock him out.
Or he's not going to make it there.
Or he's not going to make it, or Paddy's going to get in there and finish him early, and it's going to be the end. I think
if there is any like surefire, stone cold, 100% lock, the pressers will be real good.
Oh, yeah, the pressers are going to be fantastic for this one. Also announced for that card, Shavkat Rakhmonov, who UFC is huge on, 17-0, all finishes. Like I'm not going to crown him just yet as the next big thing, but he's definitely in that conversation, is taking on Stephen Wonderboy Thompson.
I mean, hey, listen, if you listener want to crown him, then crown his ass.
Yeah, like I say, I know when the UFC gets really in love with pushing people to the moon, this is a situation where it's like, let's wait and see. I
can think of a few.
Yeah, I was going to say, we've seen enough in the time that we've done this podcast that we could definitely talk about it, but
yeah.
This, like I say, this is building up for a very solid card. The main event that night is going to be Kobe Covington taking on Leon Edwards. So like I say, they're really stacking this card up. I like what I'm seeing here.
It's a good card
For a solid build. I mean, I think the only one better right now is the one for MSG with John Jones and Stipe Miocic.
Yeah,
I think that one's coming together real nicely. So there's some really good UFC cards to take us out for 2023.
Mm-hmm.
That said, for anything and everything that is the ODPH, you can find it at odphpodcast.com. That's all for the sports edition this week. So for the one and only Padawan J.
Fuck the Astros.
I'm your host, Ken M. Thank you as always for listening to the ODPH podcast, better known as the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour. See you next time.
Gonna be down to the punch. Gonna be down to the punch. 'Cause they can't bring